Welcome to the Don't Call It Small Business Podcast, powered by Foreman & Associates, LLC, a consulting and professional development services firm. I'm your host, Natasha Foreman. Our podcast provides professionals and organizational leaders with helpful advice, tips, and business news that you can use for training, development, strategic realignment, and more. We examine the tough questions and issues impacting our businesses, households, and communities. If you like what you hear and find the content useful, please share us with your inner circle. Now that we've covered that and you've learned a little about us and why we do what we do, let's get to work. Join us for today's episode.
Welcome back. I'm glad to be here with you. I'm excited to be diving into part 5 of our multi-part series on how to start a business. We have a jam-packed session for today. If you're joining me for the first time today, I recommend that you skip on backwards to episodes 88 through 91 so you can catch up and begin the associated homework assignments for each episode. If not, you'll be confused and frustrated and you'll blame me. So just go ahead and just pause this. Go back to the other ones. You're not missing out. This is going to be waiting for you when you reach us. But get what you need and catch up. All right. For the rest of you, let's recap what we've covered so far. All right. Part 1, you had to begin digging and exploring your why and seeing where your head and heart connect and commit to your journey. We examined the reasons why you want to start your business or reignite one you're struggling with. We peeled back the layers of the myths and misconceptions about entrepreneurship and what it means to be a boss. In part 2, we discussed the type of company and industry you're interested in, whether there's a need for the company and the products and services you're interested in selling, and we begin to consider the other companies in your industry, direct and indirect competitors, and how much research you have already done on them. We also had a great time exploring the application of your business SWOT analysis, your personal SWOT, and the importance and value of also ensuring your team members do SWOTs. In part 3, we examined the benefits of starting and operating a business. We also addressed the policies, laws, culture, and environment that you are positioned to create and reinforce as the owner of said business. We worked through visualizations about your ideal customers, clients, employees, suppliers, vendors, and contractors. And also in part 3, we laid out the core of your business, which is the mission, vision, values, and your deal breakers. In part 4, we reviewed the layers of a business plan, and then I showed you how to get into the numbers of your industry through a market analysis. I shared various resources and websites to assist you. You have had basically 4 weeks worth of homework assignments that hopefully you have completed at least 50% of so far. Now, if you have not done these previous episodes and you decided to listen to me anyway, I hope that what you just heard, you understand the seriousness and the depth of this content. So you can continue listening, but like I said, don't blame me when all of a sudden you're confused. All right. I'm just warning you. There's always somebody who's hard-headed. Like, you think the episode is going to disappear. All right. So where are we today in this business planning journey? Today, we're diving deeper into your business plan research from part 2, episode 89. So that means we're going to be looking at the competitive landscape. We're going to identify market gaps and defining your target market. And we're taking your visualizations and we're going to now form them into concrete ideas that you can run with. It's important to investigate the competitive landscape so you can see where you stand at all times, not just to position yourself for launch, but throughout the life of your company. So what a lot of people do is they create a business plan only because they think that this is the tool that they need in order to get financing or whatever the case may be. They're looking at the transactional element of the business plan rather than looking at that this is the actual roadmap that you are utilizing to, reach the mission and fulfill the vision of where you're trying to have this idea be. Like, you're birthing this idea to be something, to have an impact. The business plan is to help guide you through the process. And then the other plans that you built off of it, your other strategic, tactical, and operational plans are the things that are then being built into it to make it happen. So that when you reach those ultimate big old juicy behemoth goals at the end that are your mission and your vision, you can then look back at all of those other plans that built up to this plan, that then you're like, yeah. And every time you refine your business plan, it is with that ultimate big mama goal at the end, right? So that's the reason why the business plan that you created in 2000 should not still be what you're looking at now today. It should have adjusted and been improved, and certain things that weren't or no longer relevant needed to be tossed to the side. You're pruning the plan as well, like you would a rose garden, right? So I just want to make sure that we're doing that. Like the visualization that I gave of a tree. A lot of trees will shed their leaves, and then all of a sudden they grow back some, stronger, beautiful leaves, and then they do it again. It's the same thing with our business plan. So I just want to make sure I stress that. So some things to consider and some questions to answer. So I hope you have something to take notes with. Is what brands are most well known in your chosen industry? Like what organizations are, right? Okay. They might even be ones that you admire and you look up to. So don't think that they're, when you look at competition, you're like, now you're looking at them like some kind of disease or monster. You've looked up to them. You've used their products, their services, whatever the case may be. You want to be able to come in and get a slice or more of the pie. So just being aware of that. You don't have to have this bloodthirst or this, vomit-induced type of tirade. It's like, gosh, some people get a little intense. 2, how do they set trends and capture customers' attention? When you're looking at what they're doing, what are they doing to set those trends? What are they doing to get the attention of the customers they have? The hundreds, the thousands, the millions of customers. What do they do well? And what can you learn from them? Don't act like you can't learn something from them. They've been in business forever, however long. They have the amount of customers, the amount of employees they have, because they're doing something well. You can learn from them. It's not that they're perfect, that they don't have flaws, that they don't mess up, but they're doing something well. You can learn from them. Take what you can learn from them and apply it for your business. So if you're wondering about how companies set trends, we're going to explore that later, just because I know that could come up in mind. But one way to stay up on trends in your industry, it's important to read everything you can about your industry, your market, and this big old world, right? Regularly keep up with industry trade publications and websites, city, regional, national, and when possible, international newspapers. And then tune in to see what influential bloggers, writers, and business thought leaders are talking about, sharing, and analyzing. And I'm going to share some other tips in an upcoming episode as well. So you can just kind of like put a little star next to your notes on that. The next major question is what are the brands, the organizations, the companies, what are they offering? What are their brand offers? What are their price points and value propositions? I'm going to help you with these terms in case you're staring at your device and scratching your head and saying, okay, this woman is lost her mind. Now I got to Google what she's saying. So a brand offer describes what your company is selling or providing. So it's a factual description of the service or the product that you're selling. It could be combined with your company's vision statement, the unique selling proposition, brand promise, or positioning statement. Price points are points on a scale of possible prices at which something might be marketed and sold for the highest profit while remaining attractive to your customers. So some people interchange the terms price and price points, but there is a clear distinction. So I want to make sure that you understand that. A price is the final selling price or the retail price. It's what your customer will pay to purchase the product or service you're selling. Price points are hypothetical prices that you're tossing around in your mind. So it's a possible price, although not necessarily the final selling price. Make sense? Okay. So I want you to visualize a bundle of prices that your company can choose between, which involve different demand levels from customers. You're trying to find where on the scale that the optimum price rests and awaits your selection. If you're set, if you set, the price too high, you're going to outprice your customers and you'll see lower sales and profits. Then you may see none. They may just be like, pfft. However, if your price is too low, your profit plunges drastically, and then you're going to see redundancy in your business model. You're going to now price yourself out. You could potentially put yourself out of it. If you recall the basics of economics from high school or college, then, or if you could have fallen asleep, or you could have had sucky teachers. I'll just be honest with you. But if you had some really good teachers that could really explain it and make it interesting, then if you remember that when prices are set low, consumer demand goes high. And for the most part, when prices are high, consumer demand is low. Well, except for mobile devices. It seems like those prices keep soaring and consumers keep gobbling them up, standing in those long lines for hours to get their hands on those mini computers that will be replaced by a newer version in 12 to 24 months. And then the madness repeats. I mean, I don't get it. Okay, so anyway. Oh, gosh. I don't know when that cap on the prices for mobile devices, when we're going to reach that. Because, Lord, yeah. All right, so how do companies set price points, you ask? Because I know someone's asking that. All right, well, let's say the price of an item is $50 and the customer demand for that item is 100 units. When the price is at $10, demand could be at 500 units. At the $50 price point, the customers who would normally only consider making a purchase at $10, they're going to look at you like you're crazy. So they're going to instead go to your competition, or they're going to opt and go without the item altogether. It just isn't worth it to them to pay the higher price. Now, for your company to determine the right price, you need to know how your costs compare at each level of quantity demanded and what would allow attainment of the highest profits. Does that make sense? Because sometimes your customers are willing to actually pay more, and you've set the price so low because of your lack of confidence in your product, in your company, in yourself. And then sometimes you have an overinflated sense of confidence because you're looking at what someone else has done, and you're like, well, they set theirs at 3,000. I'm going to set mine at 3,000. Well, yeah, they set theirs at 3,000. Well, look at their customer base. There's demand. You just came out the blocks. This is your first race. You up here trying to set a 3,000 price tag, and you're wondering why someone's like, no. You may get one or two, but you're not going to get 10,000, 20,000, like the person who you are trying to emulate. At least not right now, right? So just understanding, what will the market bear? What will your customers tolerate before they won't tolerate you? Do you know, here's another sub question. Do you know your competitors' price points? Do you have any way of researching that? And do you even know why researching your competitor pricing even matters? There are 5 core benefits, probably a little more, a little less, but there's some core benefits to gathering accurate competitor pricing, and these can have a major impact on your company. Number 1 is market penetration. 2 is profit optimization. 3 is you can test your own pricing limits to differentiate your own offering in comparison to your competition. 4, over time, it's going to help you gain insight into your competitor's pricing strategy. And then 5, it's going to help you stay ahead of any strategies that can be made to undercut your prices and steal your customers, because best believe that's what your competition is trying to do, which is what you're trying to do. Right? That's what you're trying to do. We're not talking about the catering model where I said that less than 10% of the market is these large, mega companies, and then the rest of the market is really open to mostly smaller and micro enterprise companies, catering companies. And so everyone's just coming in and you can get larger chunks. Oh, some of you may be entering industries where, it's some heavy hitters, a lot of heavy hitters and stuff. And so with that, you are trying to, no matter how you wanted to slice it, you're trying to get some of their customers to sway your way. For whatever reason, you're not like trying to say, well, I want someone who's never been a customer of any of my competitors. Right. Whatever. Let's keep it real. Now, with that, there are, of course, some challenges when you're analyzing competitor pricing. And so in a future episode, we're going to explore those challenges and where to find competitor pricing. So I won't leave you hanging there. I want to pivot to the next term on those terms where you're probably staring at your screen. The next one is value propositions. And a value proposition is a statement that clearly articulates the benefits that customers will receive from the products and services that your company delivers. It is both a marketing statement and a sales pitch. So when you do it well, the value proposition can help your company and or the product and service differentiate in the marketplace. It can do the same for your differentiation among a target audience or target market. So your value proposition is your chance to woo your customers. If you don't know that woo, you just gotta know. Jeffrey Osborne, wasn't that Jeffrey Osborne? A woo. Oh my goodness, you guys, you gotta be able to laugh at yourself. So with that, back to the value proposition. It's your smoothest and most confident way of saying, pick us. This is why you should pick us, right? It's the only time that pick me dance is valuable. Don't do it in your romantic relationships, please. Don't. Okay? And so with the value proposition, this is you putting yourself out there and you're positioning your company as the answer to the potential customers' questions. You're the solution to their issues, the opportunity they are seeking. Your statement speaks to their needs. And customers that want reliability would, of course, receive a value proposition that speaks to the reliability of your company's service or product. The goal is to win them over, gain their loyalty, boost sales, position your company in the market, and wiggle worm and gain leverage for a competitive advantage. You're trying to have longevity in the marketplace. You're not trying to, blink and be a one-hit wonder and people don't even remember you. The term value proposition is credited to Michael Lanning and Edward Michaels, who first used the term in a 1988 staff paper for the consulting firm McKinsey & Company. In that paper, which is titled A Business is a Value Delivery System, the authors define value proposition as, quote, a clear, simple statement of the benefits, both tangible and intangible, that the company will provide, along with the approximate price it will charge each customer segment for those benefits, end quote. So in a future episode, we're going to dive into the core elements of a value proposition and how to attract customers with them. So I'll make sure that you get that so that you really can hone this skill and make it yours. Now let's get back to your competition. Next question for you on them is, what sales tactics, technologies, and platforms do they use for customer experience? Now, if you're looking at the screen again and you're like, Natasha, what's customer experience? I'm going to explain that to you. That is the sum of experiences that people have during the whole relationship with a given product or service. Remember, it's all about relationships. So if you think about your romantic relationship, what is the whole relationship when you can look back over the years, right? Over the time. What's been that experience? The same is true with your customer base. So that's the customer experience. What are they experiencing while being in this relationship with your company? The more impressed they are with the services and products that you provide, the more they begin to trust your company, and the greater the trust, the higher the probability of gaining their loyalty. Bad impressions can cause customers to flee and run to your competitors. And there are several customer experience platforms that you can choose from. Like, there's plenty, but I'm just going to share some. There's Zendesk, Response Tech, IBM TeaLeaf, ClickTail, Satmetrics, Adobe Experience Manager, Clarabridge, SAS Adaptive Customer Experience, HubSpot, and there's some other platforms. So later in this series, we're going to explore these and others and help you see which ones might be most appropriate for your company. And you can research and see which platforms your competitors use. Now, if there is a giant that you admire, they might be using a big mama platform that is geared towards large size companies with mega budgets that can afford the higher monthly or annual subscription rates. I'm telling you this because you need to hear this. I need you to be able, I don't want you to turn around and say, well, Natasha told me to buy those $4,000 a month subscription plan. No, Natasha did not. You need to understand that you might have to find a comparable, more affordable platform. So please don't go broke trying to keep up with the Joneses, or in this case, the giants. They have millions and billions of dollars at their disposal. You don't, not yet. So look for the $50 per month or per year option and push away from the $500 monthly or the $5,000 annual option. Please, folks, it's... As a management consultant, when I'm going in and I am looking at the financial audits and I'm looking at how the money is being spent, so many companies are spending money because on things, they're outspending, they're overspending on things because they see that the big mama companies are using these platforms. But you haven't even built the infrastructure that they have in order to need the full gusto in depth of what that platform provides. Like, you may only be using 5 to 10% and the rest is wasted because the rest is actually built for a much larger company. So tap your ego down. You can look at what they use, and then what you do is you put in you find a competitive analysis. You put in that platform in your search engine and you put VS. So whatever it is, that product, you put in VS, mean versus. The moment you start typing versus, you will see that Google or whichever search engine that you're using will immediately start to populate, because it understands versus means competition. It's going to start then looking and seeing what the comparable platforms or what people have reviewed to say compares to, equals, or is better than this other platform. You can then be able to do that. Or you can type in that platform name in the search engine and say, a less expensive option or cheaper version, whatever the case may be. Search it. That door of $5,000 a month or $500 a month or $5,000 a year or whatever the case may be is a locked door for you at this phase. You're trying to find ways to do more with less so that you can then be able to allocate the resources that you have at your disposal to be able to support your team and support the efforts that you're doing in order to reach the big mama goals that you have. All right? So I'm saying this, I'm stressing this, because when someone says it, I'm going to just bust out this episode and be like, drop the mic and walk away. I'm just not doing it. Now, let me share some other ways that you can collect data on your competitors. You can observe their advertisements and sales. You can observe businesses in your industry and area through trade magazines, general advertising, or site visits. Believe the competition does it all the time. They're sending somebody on site at your store, to check out what you're doing, what you're not doing, how you're selling stuff. A third way is networking. You can also search the internet, including websites and blogs and their social media. So you can look that way. Some things they present, whether they're doing so intentionally or just inadvertently. Another way is you can use the competitor data in your company SWOT analysis, which, as I mentioned before, is usually part of your marketing plan, which will be something that we're going to be outlining in an upcoming episode. So this is something that you'll be able to keep using and referring to. All right. Now let's see what else you need to know about your competition. Something else that is important is to determine how your competitors use content to educate and engage their audiences. So my question to you on that is, have you been studying them and how they reach and connect with their audience? And yes, this is tied directly to customer experience as well, right? So what we're looking at is customer education content, and it's one vehicle that's used to educate and engage. It helps businesses to educate their customers about their products and services, which can lead to increased sales and conversions. And it attempts to explain to customers why they need your product and how they can use your product to its full potential. We see this application through the building of knowledge bases and the use of live webinars, on-demand e-learning, certificate programs, and online academies. Now, if you recall, I mentioned in part 4 that you can learn information about your competition through their customer reviews. Do you remember that? What were some of the things that I mentioned? Like what? Let's see. I can't even hear you. Let's see if you remember. Do you remember? I said that tracking your competitors' customer feedback can help you gain insights into how your company can improve to better serve your target market. It can also help you improve your products and services. And by reading all of their positive and negative reviews, you get to experience the ups and downs of what it's like to receive praise and scorn from people you can just easily call or meet in person, right? And understanding that some of the sites won't take down those reviews. So they're just there, glaringly obvious, like Vegas casino signs, just flashing and blinking to get your attention. Well, this will help condition you as well for the reviews that you and your team will get in the habit of responding to, which translates to your customers that you're open and willing to receive and answer to feedback. So by getting in the habit of looking at your competitors' reviews, what they're having to see on a regular basis, it's going to also help condition you for when you start to see those reviews coming in for your own business, so you're not shell-shocked. By reading these reviews, you can see the mistakes your competitors are making, identify their strengths and weaknesses, and any gaps in their service or product offerings. The customer feedback also helps you to get a good idea of who their target customers are, track their social media strategy, and develop a unique selling proposition. Ah, yes. So something else to consider is if you have the chance to interact with your competition's customers, you could possibly redirect them to your business. Don't think companies don't do this. You can find negative reviews via, branded hashtags on Instagram and Twitter, or X, where customers often speak about their poor experiences. And then if you want to take a more discreet approach, you can reach out to customers loyal to your competitors via direct messaging, inviting them to try your brand instead. I've had plenty of companies DM me to entice me to try their brand instead of the one that I'm using or promoting, etc. Something else you can do is become active on social media communities where your competitors' customer base happens to be active. You can establish a rapport or offer to help them with their problems. Those are just some tips to consider, all right? And let's move right along to the next topic, which is market gaps. So what are market gaps? They are customer needs that are currently unfulfilled or underserved by existing services or products. They are the gaps between what your customers have and what they want. And if you can pinpoint these untapped opportunities, your company can boost revenue, enhance customer satisfaction and experience, expand your customer base, and stand out from the competition. So it can help you determine what you sell, how you sell it, and to whom you are selling it to. And as a newly launched company, identifying market gaps can help you plan for the expansion and growth of your company. So let me share some examples. Let's use a restaurant, as I've used the catering and I've used a restaurant example before. I've used both. Your new restaurant is launching with a different type of cuisine than existing nearby restaurants. So look at how Uber turned the taxi model on its head. They connected passengers with mini cabs to enable them to be picked up and pay for their journey using GPS-enabled smartphones and digital payments, right? Well, do you know how print-at-home postage labels got their start and became popular? Well, it was partly the result of customers being frustrated at having to purchase stamps or go to the post office, and so the convenience of printing at home alleviated the issues for many people. Now, how are you going to identify market gaps? Well, a gap in the market often addresses problems and needs faced by the customers, right? So you're going to survey customers about the issues that affect them, their frustration with buying or using products and services, or new features they'd like to see. I've already mentioned the nuggets of information you can gather from reading customer review sites to see what your competitors' customers have to say about them, as well as problems faced by other customers. You can brainstorm the issues and problems that you face as a customer. And by considering how you have felt as a customer, what would you want to avoid doing as a business owner so you don't run into the same or similar situation when you have these customers, like complaining about you for the very things that you complained about another company, another brand, another product. Make sense? So you need to ask yourself questions about your personal experiences as a customer, not just of businesses within the industry you're pursuing, but in all industries and businesses you can think of. They're all relationships. They're all sources of relationships. Can you recall some of your best and memorable experiences? Can you recall some of the worst? What made them best or worst experiences? And how were issues resolved favorably or not? Like in the ones that weren't resolved favorably, those are the ones that left a bad taste in your mouth. Like you will always be able to quickly recall those experiences because it wasn't a win-win. Now, I want you to write down a list of problems or needs that are not being met and then brainstorm ideas of how you could address them. And take notes of the customer reviews and how you would resolve those issues if you were the owner of your competitor's business. How would you resolve those issues if it were your customers complaining about your business? Yeah, I said it both ways. Because we're quick to say how we would resolve someone else's issues, but then when we start fiddling and looking like a goldfish when the tables are turned and we're in the hot seat, it ain't so easy peasy when those comments are being directed to you and folks are demanding resolution, refunds, or whatever. All right? Like people that work for companies and they're like, yeah, and they've got a lot to badmouth the companies, but they never consider if they were the ones owning, operating, managing those companies, like on the higher levels of having to make some of those big mama decisions. It's just different when you got on the the big mama draws. It's just different when you're walking in those shoes. It's just different. Whenever the weight of that world that is that company is on your shoulders, it's different. Now, something else I want to point out about market gaps is that some folks think that they have to create some mega business that will revolutionize their industry, when what you could do is focus on niche markets to see where customers are underserved or who can be served differently, such as with the modern technology or customer service. So look for other niche businesses in different sectors that launched a new successful niche product. And what did they do? What innovation did they bring? What can you replicate in a different niche? Maybe you can reinvent an existing service or product. Because if you recall, I touched on that in previous episodes of this series. Your business could offer a similar product that a competitor is selling. Look for ways to adapt and change yours, and you might find yourself bringing in more customers and greater profits. Like, I got a good example. Look at how Nintendo hit the market and they went against the grain. They bucked the system and they gave their rivals a run for the money. Boom. Maybe you find market gaps where innovative technologies can create demand in areas like environmentally friendly products or greener service offerings, etc. Right? When you're looking at technology trends, they are a useful barometer as they open up new products and services that were not previously possible. I mean, look at how drone photography and videography has taken off, literally and figuratively. You've got to do the research and ask the questions. Ask your customers. Ask your competitors' customers. Ask random people that you have no clue what brand they're loyal to. Just ask. And then if you just don't have the time, too lazy, not interested, you need to pay someone to do it for you. If not, you could be leaving a lot of relationships and a lot of money on some tables. Okay. So let me processing back in my mind. I've briefly touched on the topic of target market during this series. I've definitely covered it in previous episodes over the years. But let's explore it as though I haven't discussed it. And we're only doing this so you can make sure you're adequately covering it for your business plan. Yeah. That thing we've been working on. All right, so the target market is not the same as the target audience. The audience is narrower. It's the group of people the business expects to actually purchase the product. The ones you hope to make your customers. They may or may not overlap with the target market. So for example, a children's toy may have boys ages 5 to 8 as the target market and the boys' parents as the target audience. The target market is also distinct from the buyer persona. While the target market describes a type of person in general, the buyer persona is a complete but hypothetical individual. Does that make sense? The buyer persona can help narrow down an advertising strategy, for instance. It's the heightened visualization that we're massaging in previous episodes. All right, so everything that we've been massaging through is what that is. All right, now let's get back to your business plan. You will need to define your target market. You're going to take the visualizations of your ideal customer base combined with the answers from the previous episodes of this series, and now you have the chance to go deeper and wider into defining what and who they are, what they're bringing into this relationship, and why they are the potential customers that you will work to attract and retain. And then when it's time to consider your target audience, you will go narrow to zoom in on their specific characteristics. And there are various data points to include in your target market, such as demographics, which categorizes people based on age, gender, employment status, life stage, family structure, religion, and income, right? Another data point is geographics, which describes the physical location of your target customers. So if they live in rural or suburban areas, or the area of the country they live in, or their time zone and local language, right? A third data point is psychographics, like their hobbies, entertainment interests, preferred leisure activities, political leanings, aspirations, attitudes, religious beliefs, personal values, opinions, so on and so forth. A fourth data point is behavioral patterns that define their buying habits, and this could be the qualities that your potential customers are looking for in the product or service, and why, when, and how frequently they want to purchase it. I hope that makes sense. For those of you who are pursuing the launch of a business to business, so a B2B and not a B2C, which is a business to customer company, then I want you to listen up. Firmographic segmentation classifies companies and businesses into a set of shared attributes, such as their industry, the number of employees. So basically, firmographics, like demographics, focuses, but is different. It focuses on the characteristics of businesses rather than people. So it's like demographics, but for businesses. So this is used exclusively for B2B marketing. All right. Now, common attributes to consider for firmographic segmentation include industry, location, size, status or structure, and performance. I hope that was helpful for those of you who are launching or reigniting your B2B company. So I want to make sure I got that in there. Now, speaking of segmentation, and what I'm about to say works really well with B2C companies. Each group within your target market can be segmented into smaller segments by age, lifestyle, income, location, their buying habits, their media channel preferences, and more, all right? You need the data on them, and you need to zero in on the statistics. Established businesses can easily download reports from their CRM database, and CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management. An established business can also gather information from POS system and sales records. POS stands for point of sale. You can use the sales records, inventory management system, records of customer complaints, feedback or suggestions, reports on customer service benchmarks and targets, website statistics, and traffic. You can also get information from customer loyalty or reward program reports. But for those of you who are new to the game, so to speak, you don't have established data on your customers because you probably don't have paying customers yet. That means you'll have to gather data from independent sources. Now, a moment ago, I mentioned creating segments. You will need to figure out if your market is large enough and accessible. Then segment the market into groups of buyers with similar preferences and buying habits for it. And let me give you an example. The athletic shoe industry is broken up into several segmented groups, first by gender, then by activity or sport. Once you've identified your market segments, you can define your ideal customer for each segment. And you define your target customers by asking yourself several questions. And here are some of the questions, right? Like, are your target customers male or female? How old are they? Where do they live? What is their marital status? Do they have children? If so, how old are their children? What is their education level? What do they do for a living? What's their average income? What motivates them to make a purchase? What are the customers' common interests? Who makes the buying decisions? How often do they purchase a product? Do they purchase online, or do they prefer to go in store so they can see before they buy, they can try before they buy? How long does it take for them to make a buying decision? Are they one that, they like to window shop, they wait until they know it's right, or are they impulse buyers? What form of media do they rely on for information? How far do they travel to make a purchase? Are they staying within a 10-mile radius, 20-mile radius, 50-mile radius? Will they travel to another state? What other products do they buy? And you want to be able to see there's a possibility that you can have complementary products that you can also be able to sell to them as well. And once you gather this information and any other relevant information you can think of, you will then focus your marketing efforts on explaining how your product or service will fit into your target customer's lifestyle and how it best meets their needs. Okay, we have done enough today. I think I'm breaking a sweat. Let's put a pin in this, and we're going to focus on the homework you're going to need to jump into. Don't expect to have it completed by episode 93, right, for part 6. But you should expect to have a nice dent in it and some effort realized and present. Your homework is to complete as many of the sections covered today, answer the questions I outlined, put on your researcher hat, and get digging. In episode 93, we're going to discuss ways to identify barriers to entry, and then we'll skip into the sales and marketing plan. Oh boy, oh joy, can't wait. But until then, I am going to rest my vocal cords because, ooh-wee, I have done a lot of talking today. All right, folks, it's time. It's time. We got to go our separate ways. Don't you think so? I think so. If you guys enjoyed what you heard today, please rate and review the podcast so that others can find us. We want to make sure that you give, we give proper credit for our show's theme songs. They're by the talented Shane Ivers. I want to thank you guys for tuning in to the Don't Call It Small Business podcast, for sharing these episodes with others, and of course for your continued support. Don't forget what we tell you on each and every episode. Don't call what you're planning, thinking, dreaming, or doing, little or small. Go big, go bold, or go nowhere. You're right? Have a super awesome day and week. I'll see you guys here next week.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, there's 4 things that we ask of you. First, please leave a rating and review. Second, be sure to connect with us on social media. Third, head over to foremanllc.com/podcast to sign up to our email list. And fourth, check out all the links and resources in the show notes. Thank you for tuning in to the Don't Call It Small Business Podcast, for sharing these episodes with others, and for your continued support. And don't forget what we tell you on every episode. Don't call what you're planning, thinking, dreaming, or doing, little or small. Go big, go bold, or go nowhere. We can't wait to reconnect with you soon. See you next time.